Willkommen zum Afasteryou Podcast, wo sich alles um Ausdauersport und Training dreht. Hier geben euch Sebastian Schlurike, Björn Kafka und Niklas Hanker wertvolle Tipps und Einblicke, die euch helfen, eure Performance auf das nächste Level zu bringen. Okay, hello to a new episode of Afasteryou podcast. Today, first time in English. Hello Björn.
Hello.
And hello to, welcome to our guest, Henrique Avancini. Hello.
Oh, thankfully we're talking in English. My German it's not great, so I appreciate that. Really nice to join you guys.
Thank you. Can you do you have some words in German?
Nein, Junge.
Who taught you this?
Most of the words that I know I learned from Manuel Fumic and Daniel Haspler.
Yeah.
So the good ones mainly came from Daniel Haspler, my former team manager for a few years. The bad ones mainly came from Manuel Fumic. So.
All right, nice.
Yeah, maybe we should talk a little bit about that we're doing the podcast now in English because we of course want to present our people from Afasteryou, also some riders, coaches, and cooks or psychologists that speak English, so that they already understand the things we talked or we will talk. So to reach a broader audience, and so I'm very happy, and I really like to start with the story that Niklas told me about you, because he's actually I don't know if he's still a little bit nervous, but I said we can talk with Enrique. And he was like, with Henrique Avancini. I was like, yeah, of course. And he was like, and then he told me the story how and where he met you, and this is actually a very nice story. And
maybe you could remember.
It's a good one. Okay, send it.
So I should
yes.
tell it. Okay.
Yes.
Back in 2018, when you came with Phil Dixon and Maxime Marot to the World Championship in Marathon, we met together in the hotel, and Phil Dixon came to me at the breakfast and asked if I know the track. And I said yes, I also trained 2 weeks on the track for the championship. And then he asked if I can show you guys the track. And then I think 2 or 3 days we ride together with Phil and you. And I showed you the track from the World Championship. And that was the first time. And back then, that was my first World Championship in marathon. And I was super nervous. And I thought, oh, what the fuck? I ride with Henrique and with Maxime. And then after that, you won the race, you get world champion, and I was so crazy.
You were part of
so
it.
Good. Yeah, that's so good. I didn't clock, like I couldn't really relate. I wouldn't remember your name. I remember riding with this guy, but I had
with an orange helmet.
Yeah.
That was
good.
me.
So thanks. With a little bit of a delay of 6-7 years, but thanks a lot for your help.
You're welcome.
I appreciate. Nice, really nice. That's a cool thing about mountain bike, because you get to relate. Like if you are a higher or lower profile racer, you get the chance to relate. In between each other. So I think that's pretty good. Like it's still an outside sport, so you're gonna bump with a world champion, an Olympic champion on the trail someday, and that's to me it's very special and quite unique in our sport.
Yeah. Definitely, and for me as a young rider back then, it was super fun. So that was nice. For me was the biggest thing that could happen in this time. Maybe for me it was more important than the race itself, because it was my first race. It was just surviving it. And but riding with you and with Phil Dixon and Maxime Marot, it was crazy. And back then I was a bit confused, because you were super motivated and Maxime not really. He always says, it's so horrible, it's so steep, fuck.
Yeah, we actually had like a great relationship, me and Max, and we were always like this sort of like positive and negative poles. And I was always like the guy, like I wanted to push more. I didn't respect the numbers, I wanted to go an extra hour, and he was the guy, like limiting myself. But it was actually great because we were always like, I was pushing him a little bit more, and he was holding me back a little bit more. So he was always like a very centered guy, very hardworking guy, but he set his boundaries. Okay, I'm gonna do this and that way, and that's it. Yeah. So I was the guy, like pushing a little bit, outside the boundaries, and he was the guy trying to put the leash on me, like so. As teammates, it was really good to work and cooperate with him. We had our personal and individual ambitions, but it was actually a very nice match to be a teammate with Max.
Yeah.
So,
for the
first thing. So now we started with a nice story, but I know it sounds impossible, but there are people out there that don't know who Henrique is actually. And Nicholas, you did a pretty good job. Maybe you can read the thing that we prepared. So, who is Henrique Avancini? Yeah.
Okay, Henrique is from Brazil, and I think the most important thing we need to say, he's double world champion in mountain bike marathon, and was the first Pan American champion in mountain biking. So you were the first one from Pan America who won the marathon world championships in mountain biking, and the first one who also won a cross country World Cup. And I think you won in 2018 and 2023. The second world champion title were with Björn together. And in 2020 you won the cross country and the the XCC race, the short track also in Novo Mesto, in a close battle with Nino, right? And I think third was Milan Vada.
Yes.
Yeah. And you won multiple stages with Manuel Fumic in the Cape Epic, I think so, and multiple times Pan American champion in cross country, and I think 14 or 17 national titles in Brazil. Is that right?
On elite category, 14 times.
That's crazy.
That's good enough.
Yeah, I think so. And your best place in the Olympics were 13 in Tokyo, right?
Yes, exactly.
And also that's the best place for a Brazilian rider ever in the cross-country race in the Olympic. Yeah, so you're 35 years old?
Yeah, I don't look like, I know, but I'm just jumping ahead, I knew that you would say that. I don't look like, but I'm 35.
Nice. Something I missed about it?
Not anything important.
Is there a race you would add to the list that's very important for you, maybe?
Well, I mean, there are a few special accomplishments. One thing that I'm really proud of, in a way, is that I was the first guy to win a World Cup or a world title on all three disciplines in the world. So I was the first guy to win on short track, cross country, and marathon. After me, some guys achieved that a few years ago, a couple of years ago.
2022.
Yeah, exactly. When he won
Denmark,
the marathons and in Denmark. So he also did the full set, which is something that makes me very, very proud, because I was never very talented, especially as a mountain biker. So I had to build my level, I had to build my engine, to develop my skills, and to be able to perform well or very well on different formats. To me, it tells more about my work ethic than my talent. So that's something that I'm proud of. To me personally, it's a big achievement.
Yeah, When Henrique and I we met we met in Novo Mesto last year, and we stayed some days together. He slept in a bed. I slept on a camping mattress besides him in a very nice apartment.
No complaint, okay?
No, it was fine.
I fed you twice a day, so.
And I think the interesting thing is you told stories about how you became actually a mountain bike rider, and your way up the ladder, and it's a story that, and I heard a lot of stories, but this story is quite unique, and you are for a lot of riders in the World Cup a role model, because you didn't go I would say like the normal way, that super talented rider from the under 23 just go through full throttle in the elite category and just is of course also very good. You were like pretty late, and when I talk, for example, to Thomas Salzmann, for example, he's always like, Henrique Avancini, he's my role model. He's the greatest rider because his work ethic, and he was really not like, the stars were not really good for him, but he did it, and maybe tell us a little bit about where did it start, I mean, like the first time I heard about you was like, I think in Münzing, it was like, who's that guy? It's like suddenly there's this Brazilian guy, and but it was quite a bumpy road, and until you reached what you achieved, with contracts and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I hit a few walls on the way. I think the first hard barrier that I had to get through was to start, to race in Brazil, because when I started racing as a teenager, that was late 90s, early 20s. So back in 20 until up to 2010 in Brazil, the sport was really low profile. Mm-hmm. And even if I would get like to a top spot as a Brazilian, as a national champion, still like the conditions, the professional conditions were not great. So I wouldn't be able maybe to be stable financially, or to live a good life or to change my life. And I come from a simple family, talking financial terms. I was pretty lucky to grow up. I have to summarize because it's quite a long story, but I try my best. I had the chance to grow up on a farm, mm-hmm. on a small farm that my parents were looking after the property, and that was this place was very, very important to me, because I had the chance and the space to build the trails and to ride my mountain bike. So by the same time, my father opened the first small bike shop. He opened his first shop late in 1995. Then in 1997, I got my first real mountain bike. One of the customers drove into his garage with the bike on the roof of the car, cracked the frame on the half, mm-hmm. and then my father cut the whole frame and made a smaller one, and the bike was built with just the leftovers from the bike shop, and that was my first mountain bike. A few years later, I missed the turn on a race and I cracked it again. So luckily, that was actually pretty lucky, because and then was a proper leftover for the second time, and it's still on the wall to this day. So it's today it's something very special to me, that reminds me the roots of my start. But the early days were pretty hard, and I was in constant conflict with myself, because I was chasing something that it wasn't a reality for my family. So to chase to be like a good sportsman, it's challenging for sure. No matter where you are in the world, it's a lot of risk involved. But on my side, there was the risk of I'm wasting time, and if I don't become good enough, I'm gonna be a burden to my family instead of like helping my family. And so that was something that actually drove me to push really hard. So every time I had the chance, or every time I had the chance to go to a race or to get some sort of support, I was valuing it so much, because to me it was so important to keep the dream alive. And I didn't have much of references in the sport by the time, so the information wasn't getting easily down in Brazil. So basically I had some old magazines. I started learning English just to be able to read the Mountainbike magazine, American magazine. Yeah. So a friend of ours was always like dropping some old ones in the shop, and I was like reading that over and over and over. And when I was older, when I was about 19 to 20 years old, I was already like investing in the sport for quite a long time. And until that point was kind of like very positive, because racing the bike opened a lot of doors to me. So I could go to a better school that I wouldn't be able to afford on a normal way. I was able to go to a law school later on. So I had the scholarship for the university, and because of the sport. But I got to this point when I was 19 to 20 years old that I had to make a decision. I was riding for a local team, a national team. The team was about to collapse, and then the guys told us that they would pay us the 2 first months of the year, Jan and Feb, and after that they would see what would happen, and we were kind of like free to do whatever. So I had no contract, and I was like going to the uni. Racing was my first year as under 23, and then I decided to take this money and everything that I had in the bank. I bought a ticket to Cyprus. That was on a Wednesday. I landed on a Friday to race on a Sunday, and I had no clue what was coming. I didn't know anybody by the time. I just wrote an email to the organizer asking for the registration and if he could give me some help and so on. And he gave me a free registration. By the time I didn't have like a credit card or something, so I used my father's credit card on the day I was about to fly out. I booked a hotel that was a full pension hotel, full board hotel. So I would be on a place with a range within 60 Ks to the races. So the closest race was 10 Ks from the hotel. The last close race was 60 Ks. So I told myself, okay, I can ride 60K race and survive back to the hotel. And I have 3 meals, I have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So I can make it. And the goal was I need to try to show myself on those races. We would race 4 weekends back to back. And that was my genius plan. So when I landed, Friday late night, and I head to the hotel. And once I got to the hotel, I had like very, very low money on my pocket. It was something like 150 euros or something like that for 4 weeks. But in theory, like I wouldn't need to spend so much. And then when I went to check in the hotel, the guy told me that I had a problem with my booking, and I had no reservation. So
Shit.
I got really desperate because I was 20 years old. I didn't have a mobile on me, and I tried to go back to the airport and check how much it would cost to change the flight and go back home, and it wasn't possible. And then I thought, okay, the best I can do is I go to the race. It's on Sunday. I need to survive until Sunday. And the prize money was actually pretty decent by the time on the Cyprus Sunshine Cup. and then I had to to race to pay my living for the following week. So that's racing under pressure, I tell you. That's racing under pressure.
That's proper racing, yeah.
Yeah, that's proper racing. And then eventually I did amazingly well. Actually, on the first one, I finished sixth. And I remember I was racing most of the race against Stefan Sun and Kauplot, the Bulls guys. So they were like big stuff, by the time. I mean, they still like very respected riders. But at the time, like they were like top contenders for the Cape Epic. So they were doing the final prep for the race, like the next month. And at times I was telling myself, I don't care who those guys are. I need to grab another spot. I need another €100 on the pocket, because that's gonna absolutely change the game for the next week. So, and then I was actually like surviving week after week, and very long story. That trip, it's a crazy one, but summarizing it, I got back with a contract for Ukrainian team. This Ukrainian team was based in Italy, ISD cycling team. ISD, it's a mining company in Ukraine, actually a huge company, and they had this sportive program supporting a lot of like different Olympic disciplines, and they had the mountain bike team with I think was 5 Ukrainians, and then it was me, a Greek guy, Italian guy, and a Swiss guy. And
the Greek guy also got the world champion marathon, right?
Exactly. Yeah, Pericles
Iglesias? Yes.
Yeah. He won in 2012 in France on a very, very muddy one. Yeah. And I got to this team, and I couldn't believe that I was having this chance. I was riding for €5,000 per season.
Per season.
Per season, yes. And I mean, I thought my life was great now, like all of my problems are solved. And then the first race that I went was the Offenburg World Cup in 2009. And again, I landed, I think, on Saturday to race on Sunday. And then, I mean, I was shitting myself. I never had raced a World Cup before. I still had. It wasn't easy to me to communicate very well with the teammates. I was so scared, and I had the feeling, like being Latin American, it's hard when you go to Europe the first few times, because you have this feeling that anything you do, it's wrong. So I was tense all the time, even for simple stuff, like you get on a hotel and you get scared if you do something wrong, like, here it's perfect, maybe I go to jail, or maybe, I can break anything. So it was very, very tense, really.
So in this time, you were just by your own here in Europe, so you had no family or no one from Brazil or something. So you were just your teammates, maybe your team manager, and that's it.
Yeah, that's it. Most of the time I was living in central Italy. I was spending time on a flat, and it was like a cool box, an oven, a toilet, and a mattress, a bed with a mattress, and a hanger, and that's it. That was the place I was staying. So I had no TV, no radio, no internet, no fridge. So
crazy.
I mean, it was crazy, honestly. When I look back, and I never shared that with nobody during the time. Like I was holding everything to myself. And the point is that I was trying to be an European as much as I could, in terms of I was watching how the guys would train, how they would eat, how they would rest and live their lives, and I was trying to, to give my very best. But it ended up that I never stood out. I was very, very average in terms of results, especially on top level. Eventually, I had a couple of decent races during the season, especially on small events, but I never really showed nothing special, like maybe a good ride. But the point is that if you come from outside of Europe, if you're not really, really good, you don't have a spot. Maybe for a European, like if you're top 10, it's good, it's all right. If you're top 10 or top 15, under 23 rider, maybe you get the spot on a team. But if you are from overseas, like you really need to be better than that. Otherwise, it's too much work, it's too much cultural clash, so people don't give you a chance.
Okay.
So that was hard, and at some point I remember I was always like spending 3-4 months in Europe, and then back to Brazil, and then another three months or so for the second part of the season. And I was about to fly back to Europe, and then the team manager called me, and he told me that I wasn't going back. And I asked him why, and because I was training, and I was really trying my best, and like I always had the hope that at some point it would happen, and I was always like aiming for much bigger things. And most of the time people were laughing on my goals and my ambitions, but I kept saying, no, I believe I can do, I believe I'm gonna get there. And then during this phone call, he told me that I wasn't going back, and maybe I should rethink about my career and my ambitions, because I didn't have what it takes. I didn't have enough to race on that field. And that was a massive hit on me. I was a young boy, and to hear that from someone experienced, it wasn't easy. But it wasn't fast, but I took it for me, and I started like developing my work ethic from that episode, because from that episode I started saying myself or telling myself constantly that I had to build a new version of myself. So I had to change. Okay, I don't have what it takes, I don't have the skills, I don't have the engine, so whatever, be it. But that's not gonna be like that forever. So I'm gonna change. So that's when I started to really push hard on trainings, and most of the time people would say, oh, you're crazy, you do too much, or you do too hard, or you do too many sessions, or you're gonna hurt yourself. And I didn't care. I was like on a full stupid mode, and it was important to get back home every day and to kind of like have them feeling nobody's feeling the pain that I'm feeling now, and maybe one day this will be worth. So I started working with that like that for a few years, maybe for around 5 years. I was pushing myself so hard. I was training so much.
You had a coach or something?
Yeah, I do. I had a coach, and this guy was very important to me by this time, because he knew that was wrong. In physiological terms, he knew that it didn't make sense, because it didn't make sense. It was like clearly, like something out of the books. So. But the positive was that he trusted my decision. So he understood that, okay, this guy, he needs to believe in something so hard, to keep chasing that, to keep the hope alive, that he didn't allow himself to correct me. He knew that I was wrong, and he supported me on my error, because he knew that it was the only path, that maybe the chance was so small, but maybe I could get there. It was the only thing that I remember telling him, I can do the same again, like I can do the same type of training that those guys do. I remember, and he repeated that oftentimes to me, afterwards. I need to risk for evolution. That was the expression that I used it by the time. So I literally started like risking my well-being, or I don't know, my mental health, my body health for evolution, which is, like, it's very questionable. I don't know if I would advise someone to do things that I did, like to train as I did, to question myself as much as I did, or to put so much pressure on my own shoulders. But it worked. So it was what I had at the time. So it was the only path that I saw during the time. I wouldn't say it was the only path today. Like knowing what I know, living what I live, it's way more simple. But I didn't know guys like Bjorn. Like I didn't have like respect in the industry. I didn't have the experience of positives and negatives. I didn't know how my body would respond depending on what I do. So once you have the whole knowledge and the confidence to trust your knowledge, it's different. By the time, the only thing that I could do, it was embrace something really, really hard and chase that with, like all the energy that I had. And eventually, some sparkles of like special stuff were showing up. Like probably the first thing was the win on the Bundesliga in München. Mm-hmm. When I auto sprinted Jose Hermida. That was, like this guy was a guy that I could see him only on magazines. So when I had the chance to sprint against him, I remember he was racing, he had like a super strong team with Andre Chink and Ruud van Hout and Hermida, and they were working together during the race. And I was the guy like racing against them, and was actually like a super strong field with Stéphane Saint-Pierre, Max Mahot, Fabian Giga, some big names during that time. And I was pulling most of the race. I was just putting my nose on the front because I said I need to work hard, because those guys are so good that I need to make the race happen, and so they allowed me to be in the front as well. So I remember I was pulling like half of the lap, and on later laps, before we were a big group, on later laps was Van Hout and Hermida, and on the final lap, I remember so well, Hermida shouting to Van Hout, "We need to get Hermida in, we need to draw in." So he started like getting desperate, and then I kind of clocked it off. This actually, I need to win this now. This race was actually very interesting because during this time, after this time in Europe, 3 seasons, I got back to Brazil. I raced with no sponsor for half of a season, the Olympic year, the London Olympic year. And then I signed with Caloi on the second half of the 2012 year. And for a almost nothing contract. But that project, it was one of the things that changed my life the most professionally. And in 2013, we had I had the best situation that I ever had, and we started like racing overseas a little bit, but I did a few World Cups, but I was always like traveling on my own, doing my own bike, and before the races, I tried to, I didn't know too much people, and I was always very, very shy. So I was trying to find someone to give me a bottle change during the race. So I was always like starting with a full bottle. And I was like drinking a full bottle before the start and starting with a full bottle, and like 1.5
just
hours.
Try to survive.
Try to survive. So I always finish slightly dehydrated. So and I mean it was my possibilities, and on those races actually a few times I did very well, at least for maybe 20 or 30 minutes of the races, I could show myself on top 10 or something like that, like I did in the Worlds in Pietermaritzburg that year, and the win in München was also very, very crucial one. I remember that day, like going to bed, and I couldn't sleep because I was so shocked with myself that it's something that it's almost like when you believe on a religion, and I experienced the miracle that day, I was believing something that I never touched or I never tasted, and then all of a sudden materialized it, all of a sudden I raced against the best, and I even won against the best. So that was quite a moment to me. And then after that, with Caloi, I raced with them until 2014. And then I had the chance to join Cannondale Factory Racing, which wasn't because of my talent, or it wasn't because of my level at the time. It was mainly because Cannondale established themselves in Brazil in end of 2013 actually. So they wanted me in the factory team, and it was mainly like a marketing move from the Brazilian office. And I remember sitting at the table and the guy saying, "Yeah, no, we can take him." So it wasn't something that I was very welcomed in the team on the early days. Maybe put in that way, it's not right. I think I was very respectfully treated, but it's more like I wasn't assigning from like a sportive point of view. So I had as teammates Anson Cooper, that was like one of the next big things, and it was Fonzi, was Fontana and Fumic, like two of the most rock stars of the mountain bike during the time. And as I was just this guy that didn't have like the same level in any topic, like in skills, performance wise, image wise. So I felt like a strange in the nest. So the first 2 years were very, very hard to me, because I tried to keep pushing myself harder and harder. I started 2015 with great riding in the Cyprus Sunshine Cup again. I finished second overall behind a flying Florian Vogel. He was really flying early in that season. He won so many races, and I was really close.
That was the time he was riding on Focus, and the same year he getting European champion, right?
Exactly, 2015. Yeah. He moved it to Focus, and he got like the motivation boost, and he was flying. I think it was one of his best, probably his best period of his career. And I remember fighting with him. Afterwards, I got the Pan American title in Colombia, and when I got back, I still had like 6 weeks for the first World Cup, and the team was, as a factory team, they really pushed it hard for the World Cups. Like nothing else really matters. It's just the World Cup that matters. And so I really wanted to grab this chance. And with 4 weeks to go, I hit my foot on the ground training, and I had like a small crack on the foot, underneath my foot. And then I went to the hospital later in the evening because it was hurting too much. I could stand on my feet, and I had to check what it was. And we saw the crack, and they put the cast up to my knee. And I said, fuck, like I can't afford to miss this chance, like I can't afford to fail, the opportunity of being in a factory team and so on. And then I was rolling on my bed the whole night, and then I woke up at 5. I went to the kitchen, grab a knife, and I cut the cast off. And I did 180 Ks the next day with full pain. And I mean, it sounds very heroic, but it was so stupid. And I think during this time, like 15, 16, I was still like I was very, very out of balance because first 2012, 13, 14, I had this mindset that I mentioned to you. Like, I need to work like crazy hard. I need to work crazy amounts and I need to do crazy stuff. And then 15 and 16, maybe I should start like to equal that a little bit more. Okay, you were very, very dumb for 3 years and that worked. Actually, you survived those 3 years and now, get a little bit smarter now maybe. And during 2 years, I was, struggling with that. So eventually I had like good performance, but not on the level that I was hoping for. So 16 was Olympic year. I had a nasty injury on my back. And I don't know how is the translation. It's when the disc in between the vertebrae slides and blocks blocks a nerve. And then I was struggling the whole season. I did like a very nice Cape Epic with Fumich during the time. I was super strong during the race, and we won a stage, the final stage. And later in the year, I finished 22nd in the woods in Novo Mesto, which was my best result to that point, and also the best Brazilian result on a World Champs by that time. But that was it, I think I finished 2016. I was already showing a lot in terms of the level that I had during the under 23 years. So I had already like top 25 results and even like top results on smaller races like the Winnie Munsingen, the Cyprus Sunshine Cup, or the Cape Epic, which is not a small race, but on a different format. But only in 2017 onwards that I kind of like click it.
Okay.
What was different?
Huh?
What was different in that year? Did you change something?
So 2017, I got once again under proper pressure. The team signed me for another year on a lower contract, and I had less races to race. So the deal was you do the Cape Epic, you do Marathon Woods, and you do one World Cup. I could select one World Cup and do the cross country woods. So basically I had like 3 shots on the season to show if I really had something good on me. And then I went to the Cape Epic. It was a super hot year. We won the first 2 stages. I never felt like shining bright during the epic. I always like felt a little bit sick or I don't know, not really good. And the Cape Epic was very important to me because it was the first race that I really believed that I was one of the best, if not the best, because I could struggle to hold the pace for maybe 2 or 3 days. I wasn't on the level, but once everyone gets tired, and then, that was my life. So I can perform tired with tired legs. And so I trusted that so much that after, day 3, day 4 onwards, that's my thing. And then I can suffer more than those guys. Or I'm more used to suffer than those guys. And then what happened was on the 5th day, we had a few stressful situations, and then with 3 days to go, we still had the leader's jersey, and I had so much pain, stomachal pain overnight. And when I woke up, I had stomach like a balloon. I got some sort of like infection. I think looking back was very motivated by stress, by emotional stress. And then I couldn't breathe properly, especially when climbing, when I had to bend a little bit more. So it was very painful. We ended up like dropping to 3rd overall on that day, and then on the next day I couldn't recover, and then we dropped it down to 5th. Then on the final day I kind of like came around, but and then Mano wasn't motivated anymore, so he kind of like threw the towel. And we finish again on top 5 overall, but it was very bitter, because we had the taste of winning 2 stages, wearing the yellow jersey for the biggest part of the race. That was the year that we changed the approach of the race, because before was controlled by marathon riders, the classical marathon riders, like starting controller. The first hour was, like maybe you stop for a pee. And then we came with the approach to go like the first hour, it's the hardest of the race now. So like the numbers, I remember the numbers for the first hour on the Cape Epic in 17 were like insane. It was like cross-country pace. We set cross-country pace for an hour. And then we managed the effort for a couple of hours. And then we finalized the race. That was basically the approach in general terms. So we tried to crack like the more classic guys, which at the time I think nobody expected. And so was, I think, mentally hard to the guys, because they were saying, those guys are crazy. After the first day, they were saying, the race starts tomorrow. And then the next day, they were saying, maybe the race starts tomorrow. And then they were like getting 2 minutes, and then 3, and then 6, and then 10. So the race was changed a little bit. Obviously, everyone adapted to that. But it was kind of like a clash on that year. And in the end, I kind of like failed the first shot. The second shot was Marathon Worlds in Singen in Germany. And I felt like I didn't get like proper support by the time from the team. So I had to go to Europe on my own. Basically, like a physio mechanic showed up on Saturday, and the idea was I had to prove myself and to maybe win a medal or something like that. And in the end, I didn't perform well. I knew that the shape was decent, was good, but I didn't race in months. So I raced the Epic, and then the race was in late June, I guess. Mm-hmm. So for 3 months, I didn't have like the racing reference, and I don't know. I just cracked on the race. So I was racing in the front for maybe half of it. Was a very fast rolling course. Alba Nakata did a great race by the time. I think was one of the greatest performance that I saw from someone, because after the Epic, everyone said that a marathon guy will never beat the cross-country guys, and the way that he cracked everyone's legs was great to watch, actually, a great lesson.
I think Alban won and Geisi second?
Was Thiago Ferreira second.
Yeah.
Thiago Ferreira was second. Geismaier was third, and Van der Poel was fourth. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. And I think Kulhavi fifth or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think he was somewhere in the front. I think Paes was also around that group as well. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I didn't deliver. And then the next week, I would race the double race, the double trip that I could do, like with 2 races. There was the marathon race and the World Cup in Andorra. And I didn't do like a altitude preparation or something like that. And my rankings were lower, so I had like a lower grade. And I remember like after Marathon Worlds, I nearly cracked it. I remember on Monday, I was in Germany near the team base, and I went for a ride, and I couldn't ride my bike. Honestly, I was so emotionally exhausted that I had to do like 3 hours ride or easy ride, and I couldn't ride. And I remember like I stopped it on a gas station. I went to the shop and I bought like some chocolates and like, I don't know, Gatorades and something like that. And I just sat on the ground, and I was eating the sweets and like feeling so bad, it was one of the emptiest days of my life. Like I had no during that time I had no hope, like I had nothing to grab to. And then I remember later I got on the bike and I started riding to whatever direction. And at some point, I bumped to Mano Fumic, who lived also in the area. And he started like talking so much and like so much shit. But in the end, he was all like, he was always like a very, very positive guy in terms of, he was always like rushing, but like he met you, he was always trying to lift you. Even if it didn't make sense what he was saying, that was his intention. And he was talking, like, and I couldn't even answer, like, and I was listening to maybe not even half of it, like I was on blank mode. And he was talking non-stop, and he was, now you're gonna see the next one and the next one, and you're gonna deliver, you got the legs, and this and that, and then I mean somehow it kind of like. It made me to get truth that day, in terms of like I couldn't really spin my legs that day, and in the end I rode 3 hours just because I respected him and I didn't want like to, like be rude to him and stop like pedaling with him because he was talking to me. So I was just waving the head and I say yeah you're right and this and that, but I can't remember what he was saying actually, but. Later that week, we went to Andorra, and I felt like, okay, I have nothing to lose. I just need to race and just press on the pedals. Maybe it's one of my last World Cups. I don't know. And then I had like very high pressure on one side, but very low pressure on the other hand, and. I started to move upwards. It was always like quite easy to punch hard out of the line to me. So I started on, I don't know, 4th, 5th row, and then like I moved it up to top 15, maybe top 10 straight away on the first climb. And then like I saw myself riding top 10, and I was riding with Max Mahot for a while, and he was like fighting for a top spot overall. I think he was always like constantly top 3 that season, and was his first year in Cannondale. And I was around him, like, and I felt okay, maybe I tried to help Max, like I'm feeling good. So I kind of like I forgot about my result, and I tried to maybe just keep safe, and I thought, okay, maybe I don't know, I just try to protect him from other riders and stuff like that. And like laps were going by, and I always like saw Nino kind of like rode away on that race, and he had always like 40 seconds gap to a big group, and I was always like seeing that group was kind of like a big stretch, and I was constantly like scratching myself, like having the feeling, okay, maybe I have the legs to go, but I was also telling me, well, I never finished top 10, like I need to play super safe. So I rode crazily safe on that race because I just wanted to prove myself that I could do it. So I didn't use 100% of my potential that day, but when I crossed the line in top 10, like I told myself, okay, it doesn't matter what happens now. I proved myself that I can ride well. So that was a super, super important day to me. One of my biggest achievements was the first top 10 on a World Cup. And then after that, I remember the team, Max was flying during that year. Manu was doing kind of all right, actually. He was never very consistent, but he had some good results that year. And the Cannondale was high on the rankings, the team rankings. And then they asked me to do some more World Cups on the second half of this year. And then second half of the year. And then I told myself, fuck you, bastards. I mean, put me on such hard place, and now you ask me for more. And then I remember we had like a very tense talk, me, Daniel Haspler, and Phil Dixon. And then I said, okay, I'm going to do the World Cups, the extra World Cups. I did well. I did... I think it was Leisenheid, and then I did Canada, and I was riding like around top 20, so decent rides and collecting good points. And then Val di Sole was the final World Cup, and I was riding like podium level, and then I had a mechanical on the same spot that Mano had a mechanical. We were riding, Canada was riding actually its run for so many years. And actually, this episode was what motivated the change to Shimano that lasts till today. Was a problem for the rallies, and then obviously it wasn't just about the mechanical issue, but a lot of relationship in the backstages, and then the change was made from 2018 onwards. And I was I think fifth or something when I had the problem. And then I fixed the problem, and I got back to the race, and I set like crazy fast laps on the final 2-3 laps. So it was like top 3 lap times, and I finished 13th that on that race, which was my second best result on a World Cup having a mechanical. And then after that, we would have World Champs in Australia in 2 weeks' time, and we went down to Munich for a mechanic's house for a day, and then we would fly out from Munich, and then like the first gift that I got from the team, like the team decided to fly business. The whole team would fly business to Australia, and it was my first time flying business with the team. So I was like, I was like feeling like a big man, during the time. and then we we checked in, and we had those like behavior rules, or how to say, like protocols, internal protocols in the team. And one of the things was never touch airplane food. So that was one of the things that Phil Dixon was always like smashing us with that. Don't touch, when you get to the plane, don't touch the airplane food. It's like, it's poison, like to him, it's poison. You don't touch it, you don't smell it. If they offer you, you pretend you're dead, but you don't eat that. And then I got we had like a light meal before, and then we got to the plane, and it was a 13 hours flight, I think to Adelaide, if I'm not wrong. And then I sat down, like very, very fancy seat, was Emirates, actually, like pretty nice business. Yeah. And then, I was feeling like a king, and I was watching moves and so on. And then they started like offering the food. I said, no, thanks, no, thanks. And then Maximo was on my right side. And then I saw Maxime asking for food. And then, for whatever reason, I thought, this is Emirates, this is business class, and this is Maxime Mahot, it's a lot of like positive. So if Max is asking, it's probably because he knows that on Emirates and business it's different, so it's no risk. And I thought, it's 13 hours, and I'm kind of like starting to feel hungry, so I'm gonna ask for something like a little bit more plain. And then I asked it for a chicken with a cover of something, and then I had just the chicken, just the chicken breast, and like the spice was weird, but I was flying Emirates, so it must be something local from the Emirates. But it wasn't like like spot on. There was something weird on that. And then I had like a few bites and so on, and then I went to sleep. I had the whole thing. I went to sleep, and I don't know, maybe in 15 or 20 minutes time, it was fast. I woke up and my stomach was hurting so bad. And then I went to the toilet, and I destroyed the toilet. And I felt like, wow, I'm so bad, and it was horrible. And then I got out of the toilet, and then the flight attendant saw that, like my collar wasn't right. And then she offered me, can I get you a Coke or a ginger ale or something, a tonic, something like that. And then I said, yes, please. And then everything that I was having, I was going straight back to the toilet. And at some point, I was 1 hour on the door of the toilet. And at some point, Dixie shows up. and he asked, what happened, kids? I said, I'm really bad. My stomach said, did you judge the airplane food? I said, yeah, but just a chicken breast. I said, no. he went crazy. He couldn't believe that I ruined everything because of chicken breast. And then in the end, I spent the whole flight on the toilet. I eventually started puking as well. And I was so tired and so dehydrated. So at some point, I was going back to the seat, and getting hammered. I was sleeping really hard and then waking up and going to the toilet. And in one of those times, I couldn't make it to the toilet fast enough. So I shit myself in the business class of Emirates. And I had to drop it was my preferred underwear during the time, but it's still on a toilet of Emirates, some flight somewhere. So yeah, it was horrible. It was very, very hard experience, and I didn't. When I got to Australia, when I got back after a few days, I just told the guys on a team meeting, I don't know how it's to fly on the business, but the toilet's pretty good, because it was the only experience that I had. And when we got to Australia, we decided, okay, you stay in bed, for I think 3 days I didn't ride the bike. I went for a spin one day, and then another 2 days just stay on the bed, did nothing. And then we were getting closer to the race, and the approach was, okay, when I was 3 or 4 days, we really activated. So I had some super hard intense sessions just before the race for 3-4 days on course and outside the course. And I had pretty good numbers during the time, and I felt good, and I felt good on the course. And being in Australia was nice because everyone had to travel, everyone was away from home. So all of a sudden, I started feeling confident with myself. And then there was the team relay, and then I asked Dix, okay, can I do a hot lap after the team relay? And then he agreed with that, and I just sent a hot lap, and I set the fastest time than anybody in the team relay, and that was kind of just a confirmation. Okay, I'm good, I'm healthy, the legs are good, so just save it now and spend on the race. And then on the race, I think I did amazing during the time. Nino was super strong. Kuhavi showed up on a very good form. Licha was a super surprise of the day. Maybe not as big as me, but for sure, but it was a surprise. And I was looking back. If I had a little bit more experience, probably I could win that race. But I was so unsure about how to deal with Nino and Kuhavi, the last two Olympic champions, world champions, big stars of the sport. And a lot of times, I gave terrain to them. I opened the door to them. It was almost like at times I behaved like I was an overlapped rider. So every time they applied pressure on me, to gain a position or something like that, I was conceding because, those guys are very special. So I didn't respect myself, and I didn't respect the legs I had on that day, and the performance I delivered on that day. In the end, I finished fourth, and it was historical to me, to my country. And when I went back to the hotel, there was probably the most emotional ride to me, because one of the things that I wrote down on my bucket list was to be one of the top guys. More than winning, my dream, what I visualized was winning, of course, but I wanted to be like a guy that before a race starts, I'm on the list to, this guy's gonna show up, this guy's gonna lead the race, this guy's gonna try a move, this guy's gonna attack, this guy's he's here to race, and he's here to race against the best. So that was like my goal. And when I saw myself doing that on World Champs, the most important race of the season that year, that was so good. That was so special to me. And after that, I remember I sat down on a balcony of our apartment with the team manager, with Daniel Haspler, and I asked him, what do you think now? And then he said, no, I see you as a full-time World Cup racer, as a potential top rider, so we want to sign you, and so on. And then I was so much under pressure all the years before that I said, if you can get me a 3-year contract, I don't want to even talk. I want to be minimally stable. And then I asked for a value that was not high but not low. And then they offered me, they said, maybe it's, if you deliver like that, it's great, it's more than fair. But you still need to prove that you're gonna be consistent. So they made step ups to me, like level 1, level 2, and level 3. So I started level 1, which was lower than what I asked. Level 2 was what I asked, and level 3 was more than what I asked. And they set a few goals in terms of results for me to achieve during the years. And once I achieve it, for this following week, I would have the step up. And then in less than 6 months, I achieved everything. So I went up to level 3, and then 18 was one of the most pleasant seasons to me ever. I think probably the best season, or the one that I enjoyed the most, because I was on a stable situation, on a good team. I started to be recognized and respected. I started racing for the win, and I started winning. I won my first World Cup on short track in Andorra. And then later in the year, I won the world title. So every race almost every race was a new record. So was best result, win, title, this, that. So it changed so much to me. So it was so nice, because it was actually the year I got rewarded for the whole time of struggles. So 18 was super special to me. It was easy to get through that season.
Did you change something in this year? So after you get those 3-year contract, did you feel you changed something in your mind, or do you get more relaxed, and that was the reason why you improved that much, or you changed something in training?
I did change in training. I think the last year that I trained crazy hard was 17. From 18 onwards, I started trusting, and Dixie was a good part of it, very important part of it. I started trusting what I had already. So Dixie was more forget about building. You did so much, and you are now probably the strongest rider. So now let's try to learn how to use it. So the work with Dixie was not very oriented on in terms of physical preparation. It was more forget about getting better or getting stronger. Let's just try to use what you already have in a better way. So it was a totally different approach on training, and to me, worked very well for a certain period of time, because I had to learn that as well, to learn how to race, or to learn how to race against top guys. It took me a very long time, even after great results. It took me a very long time to see myself as someone big, as someone important. When you mentioned about earlier in our talk, training with me in 2018, that was something like, oh, I'm training with Henrique Avancini. I wasn't important at all. That's the thing. I actually, it took me so much to start respecting myself, and a lot of that only came after my retirement on the last year, that I could really look back to my results, my achievements, my consistency. Like, it took me 10 years of World Cup racing to step on a World Cup podium the first time. But after I did, like, for the next 3 years, I was the most consistent guy in the world, which is not something that happens often. Like, I got my first top 5. I was nearly 28 years old. It's not super young, and I retired with 30 times on top 5 on major races, which is very, very good. But like, I was so consistent. I was always there, even on the races that I finished maybe top 10. Like, if you look back, like, to the tapes, maybe one lap I was leading the race, maybe one lap or half of the race I was in the mix for the win. I was not only, like, delivering good results, but mainly I was delivering good shows, good performances. I was always, like, a very proactive guy on the races, and yeah, I think a lot of that was me trying to learn how to race better. And 18 and 19 was there was a lot around that. From 18 to 19. Not a lot changed, but to me it was a much harder year, because I was top 2 in the world ranking in 18, and then I was top 2 again in 19. I finished 3rd overall World Cup. I won a World Cup on short track. I was pretty close to win 3 times on cross country, very, very close. Was Andorra, Léger, and snowshoe. On all 3 times, I think we messed it up strategically, me and the team. But I had the legs, and I had like, I was the strongest on the day, but I threw the chance away for 3 times. And I finished that season with a feeling that I failed so hard, because was, in a long way, the first time that I didn't step up massively. But yeah. How do you step up massively on the very top? Like, it's very hard to keep improving on when you get to a certain point.
Yeah,
but to me, mentally, it was hard.
Next year.
Yeah. I think 2020, and then a lot of things changed again, because 2020, like 18 and 19, I was kind of like super realized and happy, because I became something that I always dreamed, or that I aimed, that was be one of the top guys. So I was like, respected every time that during the time they were still, like, doing a lot of those race books, and like, I was, every time that I saw myself on the top contenders list, was like always like top 3 contenders, and then was Avancini there. To me, that was so nice, because since my first world champs, like, I always went to the race book and let me see who are the top contenders, and I wanted to be that so bad. And to me, that was more than being a cover of my magazine. Like, being a top contender was a big thing to me. And from 19 to 20, I think 19, I missed those World Cups pretty closely, and there was a conflict with Nino during the Cape Epic. That was a year that me and Fumic, we rode well, but at some point in one of the stages, Fumic cracked a little bit when we were leading. He had like 5 crashes on that day, so he cracked a little bit under the pressure of the guys. We ended up losing the jersey to Scott's Run, Nino and Lars Foster, and then we lost that year. I had a thing with Nino, which absolutely changed my mindset for the following year, because during the years I started like working to develop my skills and my engine, but I also like start studying deeply the sport and the characters of the sport. So I learned a lot about cultural differences, about behaviors, about patterns, reaction patterns, body language. I went very, very deep into that for a lot of years. And obviously, being the main reference, I studied quite a lot Nino, because he was, like the guy that was racing in the front the most or winning the most races. So I had to, if you want to learn about the sport, you had to learn about him. And when we had this thing in 2019, and then it went on and on the backstage the whole season. When I finished the season, I remember I was so pissed with myself after the snowshoe race. And then into the season preparation 2020, I changed it absolutely. Like the aura was different. I stopped being like one of the top guys, and I started like training like unbeatable. Like I had this I was so sure about what I was doing and about my feeling on the bike and how I was training, and the relationship with the staff was like my preparation staff and the team staff was on a very good spot. So I started like I could win any race anytime against anybody. So I started the season like doing exactly like that, like going to South Africa, out of the plane, win. I went back to Brazil, and then I remember the thing that shows off that mindset or that feeling the best was I went in February to Spain, to Banyoles. And Banyoles, it's a traditional race, quite like fast course. It wasn't like very technical, just like twisty course, not so much climbing and so on. So historically, the race was decided on the last lap on that one climb. And then my teammates, they raced it there before, and they said, oh no, this the race, you need to be positioned, and then it always comes down to a fight of 3, 4, 5 guys on this climb, last lap. That's it. It doesn't change. It's always the same for 20 plus years. And then I told myself, okay, I'm gonna smash the field with halfway to go, and I'm gonna win the race alone. And I remember I started like squeezing a little bit, and then I got away with Koretsky, and I think he was the winner of the race, or he won. He had won like 2 years before, or something like that. And then I rode away with him, and then at some point I just dropped the hammer with 2.5 or 3 laps to go. And I just won the race on my own. And it was just like to show myself that I could do different, and I had more than anybody at the time. And then I won a few other races, and then we went to the Epic. And then the Epic got cancelled the day before the start because of the pandemic. And then, I mean, it was hard during the time because I finally saw that Fumic was really flying. He was on super shape. And I knew that the Epic, if I do what I could do, like I would do so well. So I saw that, okay, if he's that strong, and that's my thing, and I'm super shape, the best shape of my life. There's no way we're gonna lose it. We just need to get from A to B, which is hard, obviously, on the Cape Epic, but we just need to be aware of problems, and nobody's gonna ride our pace. And it was shocking because it would be our last race. It would be the last season for Fumich, 2020, and we had a really good story together. So we were super motivated to achieve that thing together. And then I got back home to Brazil, and then the race got like canceled, and then I got like a shock of reality. Okay, I'm not going back to racing anytime soon, so I need to understand that this is the reality. And then I think June or July, I can remember really well, the UCI reopened the race calendar and the ranking. And I was stuck in Brazil. Brazil actually had a lot of political conflicts during the time regarding COVID. And like the borders of Brazil were closed to most of the countries in the world. And I couldn't leave the country. And the guys, like everyone else, got back to racing, to training, to kind of like a new normal, as they called. And they started like adapting and learning about that. And then that was a moment that I lost it a little bit, like for a couple of days I thought, oh, this is so unfair, like now that I wanted so bad and everything was in my favor to finally, win, I'm in a situation that I don't even have the chance to try. That was very hard, and then I took the decision. Okay, I'm gonna was kind of like locked down during the time, and then I went to a farm to do like a solo camp, and then I told myself, okay, but it's been a while, maybe on the last 2 years or more than 2 years, that I don't have time to train, because I became all of a sudden a sports star, and I had always like an appointment, meetings, interviews and all that, and now I have time to train again. So I'm gonna work my ass off, and when I have the chance to race against those guys, I have to beat them. I have to win when I have the chance. And then finally in late August, I think it was 2 months after the opening of the ranking and the calendar, I got back to Europe, and then I got out of the plane the day before the race in Czech Republic, and then I won the race. Was a very good performance. I won the race. Then in 2 weeks' time, I won another race in Poland. And then we had this double event of World Cups in Nove Mesto. And then the first one was so bad because I got sick on the week. Was the first cold week since I got in Europe, and the temperature dropped from 15, 20 to, we raced at the short track, I think it was 5 and raining. And then my body kind of like collapsed. I had a crash on the short track. And then on cross country, I kind of like, I raced it, and I wasn't really there. And obviously I wanted to beat Nino, or I want to race against him. And he had a very, very bad performance on the short track. And then on the cross country, he had like a slow start. And he was kind of like out of the fight. And then he actually with 2-3 laps to go, he started move upwards on the race, and he went like from top, I don't know, 25. He was around that to the higher places, and I was riding pretty much the whole race on a top 5 group, and then I got dropped on, like, I kind of switched it off a little bit during on a few situations during the race, and at some point I got dropped, and he caught me with 1 lap to go. And we went sprinting to the line. I think it was the only time that he out-sprinted me. And he finished 4th and I finished 5th by like a very small margin. It was a very tight sprint. And I got so pissed with myself that night, like I was so angry, and then I said, okay, the next 2 I can't afford. I don't know what happened. I don't know why the sickness or the weather dropped me, but like I need to make this happen now, and I can't afford to miss this chance. And then the next short track I won, and then the cross country was probably one of my best performances in terms of race reading, because I remember with 2 laps to go, I was laughing on his wheel, on Nino's wheel, because like him having a good day was very important to me to kind of like click everything that I studied over the years about him, about the sport and all that, because I could anticipate everything that he would do. So I was like so focused that I wasn't doing any mistakes, and I was riding so well, but I could still see what the others were doing or thinking, or so it was a very, very special race in that point of view. In terms of like connection with the sport, was one of the best days I had in my career, because I could feel things. And to win that day was super important, because I was having a very hard time on the backstage, like with personal life, with professional life as well. And at some point I considered that could be it, like maybe I wouldn't move onwards with my racing career, and which was probably the first time that I considered that maybe stopping, for the wrong reasons for sure. So I'm happy that I didn't. And then I won, and 2 weeks after that I became the number 1 in the UCI ranking, which was also like great. It was when I landed in Brazil. I was flew back. We had woods in Austria, where I was muddy, and I still like had a good race. I lost the pedal on the start. I was dropped, and then I rode back to the front group. Sahu was away, and I started like closing the gap to Sahu, and I was fighting with Fluker and Cajo. And then I had a flat tire. I rode like a big part of the lap flatted, and then I changed the wheel and finished top 10. It wasn't like the result I was hoping for, but still like a massive performance. And then I flew back. I landed on a Tuesday in Brazil, and when I landed, the ranking got updated and was the number 1. So to me, it meant so much, like to get back home and to be number 1 was very, very nice. It was very important to me.
Crazy. And
that was an impressive history lesson about mountain bike, cross country, and also a little bit of marathon. So I still remember your win in Novo Mesto, and I still have some performances in my head. When when Kulhavi outsprinted Shorter in London, and when Shorter won, I think it was in Houffalize, when he just took like the short track, so to say, and a very clever move. And it was when you won against Nino, so it was really like a super. I still remember seeing it. And it was, you were waiting. It was a super clever move, and then, okay, you can see that you really know what you were doing. You really know, and it was the same with Kulhavi when he won the Olympics, and when Nino won in Houffalize. So very tactical, very clever moves. So these moves I still have in my head, and one more when. I think it was Absalon when he won Offenburg. It was a horrible day, super muddy, and everyone was like crawling up that mountain, this super long climb. And Absalon was carrying his bike and jogging up the mountain. His tires were completely clean, and he was going downhill like on tracks, and all the other ones were slippery and crashing, and so these 4 performances I still have in my mind. Of course, some stupid stuff like Flückinger in and I'm stuff like that. But yeah, it's nice. It's nice to see. So, but we still have like 3 years left, and we should continue. Like after 2020, then was 21 and 22. What happened there?
Well, 2021 was very challenging because I started the year as number 1 ranked rider, and to me it was mentally hard the first part of the year, because I expected like to be rewarded in terms of like support. So I was always like the guy following the guidance of the team and respecting the other riders, the team management and their choices. And at some point, I felt, okay, now I proved that the stuff that I do, they also need to be taken into account. And it was hard because a lot of things that I applied for, they didn't happen at the time, and it was hard to me. Small stuff like whatever, performance related, like allowance of I don't know, like for example, there was this unwritten rule that no family members should be with the team. But to me it was different because I was spending 2-3 months away on a very different culture. So the shock and the impact that this had in my life was it wasn't the same that it had for an European, for example, that was maybe away from home for a couple of weeks, and eventually even on the event the family wasn't together, but they were there watching. Few things like that I ask the team, or I don't know, like to ask a reliable power meter that I want to buy this power meter, and was stuff that were like turned into deep discussions. And then I think on the personal side it became super hard, especially when I was postponing the start of the season. I always like it to start racing February and then March, like have a solid block, and then April, May start working for big goals like World Cups and the big races. And I tried to fly over on February and was blocked, and then again in March and it was blocked, and we tried like to replan the season I think 5 times, and it never happened. And I said it can't be that hard, like all the guys are flying and all the guys are racing, and it's just me, so I felt like even worse than the year before when I was blocked, because during this time I felt like I wasn't getting enough support to be on the races. And then one day I decided to go after the documentation and stuff, and I decided to tell my team manager at the time that I was going to Europe to race in Italy, in Elba. Mm-hmm. And then I went and I landed the day before, and then eventually I was only Phil Dixon and Kenta Gallagher supporting me on this race, and it was actually a very nice race. Tactically as well, was a super good race. I had a close battle again with Nino and with Max, with Maho, and I ended up winning this race. And like the approach to the race in terms of preparation was very far from ideal. And after that, I went to the team base. And for a while during this time, I had a few episodes with depression since 2020, and I started like feel really low in 2021 before the season started. When we got to the point, like we did a few races, the performance was kind of like all right. But at some point, I asked it to not go to a race that the team was going, and I remember like fighting to get out of the bed, like and to have food or to get out of to train. So it was hard, and at some point I asked it to get released from the calendar and to get back to Brazil and prepare for the Olympics. Just because the relationship was really bad, and I was struggled quite a lot to be in a place where I felt that I wasn't good for the place. So I'm not saying that was my fault to be that way, but I always like, it was always hard to me if I don't feel like I'm adding to the group or I'm adding to the company or to the team or whatever. Like I feel like I can't be there. So I asked it to get released from the calendar, a few World Cups. I skipped a few World Cups, and I went back to Brazil, and then I locked it in and I started like training little by little, like kind of like I restarted the whole season. And then at some point I started like hitting some really good numbers, like good laps on training courses, some good PBs. You saw the numbers during this time, like
I still remember when I saw the numbers, and I think you were also in altitude.
Yeah. And
I was like, this was crazy.
I remember you were asking, but what happens at the Olympics? Why you finish 13th?
Why didn't you win?
Exactly. I had for sure. I had at the time what the physical attributes to win. They were there, but it's not. For sure, like my whole life tells me that it's not about just that. That's a very important piece of it, but it's not just about it. And then I went to the Olympics. The Olympics were really poor to me from what I had. There were like a few things happening on the backstage, and I didn't cope well again with some other stuff. The planning towards the Olympics that we did with the Brazilian committee was amazing for 2020. Like was the best preparation I ever had. But with the restrictions, everything kind of like collapsed like last minute. And with that, some other stuff came together with the team on the personal side as well. So in the end was a really shit situation to be on. And I raced it, and I raced it like really flat on the day. It wasn't good at all. A few lap times were faster than Pitcock racing times, and on the race day was just like mentally so flat and so unmotivated that that's after half race I just I was working so hard to just like keep moving. And then after the Olympics was a very, very low time to me. And then I went to World Champs in Italy, in Val di Sole. And then actually was like I didn't have the same shape because, like I just had a little bit of the Olympic preparation. But I finished second on the short track behind Blevins, which was something like one of those races that I lost, and I said, wow, how did I lose that? I remember my consolation during that time, and I even said that during the press conferences. I always liked him a lot in terms of how he presents himself and how he speaks for the sport. And as an older guy, I felt like, okay, if there is something good about losing a world title, is that at least I lost to a young guy that will be here for a longer time, and that has like good principles for the sport, that he speaks more than about himself. And so I lost the short track. I finished second, and then on the cross country I did kind of all right. I finished seventh. Again, I rode for more. I remember like having a discussion with Alan Hartley after the race on the dinner table, because you were throwing away too much energy and so on. I said, I mean, it's world champs for 4th or 7th, you know, like nothing changes, you know. So I was trying to go for something bigger and better, and that was my approach in general. And then the week after was one of the best wins that I ever had. That was the short track in less than height. I rode so well that day, so strong, so sharp, mentally focused, and it was, you know, like me telling myself, okay, I belong here. You know, like it's not, and I leave here when I say it's time to leave here, not when someone take me out of here. So that race was a very, very good and important benchmark to me, the short track in 2021 in Switzerland. After that, we went to US, and then I was on a good place again, like mentally, physically. And then I finished second on the short track behind Koretsky, which was okay, and I felt like saving a little bit. And then on Sunday, I felt like I was super, super good. I had a mechanical with 2 laps to go. I had like a tiny flat on the front wheel, and then I washed it out on a corner before opening the last lap, and I kind of like crashed and lost the momentum. And then the guys made a move. Was still like I think a 4 guys group. Was Nino, Vlad, Blevins, I think Bridot and me, 5 guys. And then I had this crash, and I felt like so good that day, you know, like so spot on mentally, waiting for the right moment, never rushing, and just trusting my legs and my moment. And then I lost the contact with the guys, and it was pretty much like, oh, it's done now. But then I rode back to the front group, and when we finished like the last big climb, there was like this downhill, the straight downhill, and then one last climb, and then the final sprint. So the last guys there were Lascalo was kind of like struggling a little bit, and then Nino and Blevins, and I knew that like the guy I was watching was mainly Blevins, because he's quite punchy, but you know, like the chance for me to win was a long, hard sprint, kind of like going upwards. Was if I would be on the group on the final stretch, it would be very much in my favor. And then on this final shoot, the last descent, I cut the front tire, and then it was like the flat was a proper flat with 1K to go. And then I rode a little bit, and then one side of the tire went out of the ring, and then I stopped it, and I tried to remove the tire, the rest of the other side of the tire, and then I couldn't because of the liquid and the sealant and all that. And then I remember like grabbing with my teeth, and I just I was biting the tire off the ring. And then I finished the race with on the front ring. I crossed I don't know, like 13th or 15th, something like that. I just finished the race. I remember the team was fighting for the team ranking once again, and I just kept that in my mind to cross the line. And then I crossed the line, you know, like I was always like hammered, you know, like of not winning or not having the final chance to win after doing a good race, after, you know, like riding back to the front of the crash. But that was very, very nice to me, because I remember, especially when I came back to Brazil, the amount of people that got touched by how I approached the race and how I raced that race and how I fought until the end. It was so touching to me, and I always trusted on the message like delivered. that's more important than the result itself. It's what you do with your results. But in that case, it wasn't even the result, but it was clearly what represented to people of about racing, about the fighting spirit, and it was actually like one of the most remarkable races to me, like mentally wise, and it was actually a great memory. I remember like crossing the line and being head down, but it's something that I look back today and I cherish a lot. Like it was a great day. It was a great day in my life. And then we moved on to 2022, and then I think it was, when I look back, I had to think so much to let things go, and I think I could have moved out of Canada before I did, and then 2022 was actually very, very bad in terms of the relationship, the internal relationship, because even I'm saying like that, and to people listening, they might hear and think, oh, it was actually like a bad history in between Avancini and Cannondale, and to me, it's totally the opposite. It was great, and I left with very good friendships, with a very good story, with a lot of gratitude. But obviously, we are talking about moments of changes, and that's why I'm referring to some of the negative episodes. But even nowadays, like I don't feel bad at all with nobody related to Cannondale. I like the teammates, the management. I'm still very grateful to the opportunities I was considered, and also to the experience that we shared. Just to let this clear. But 2022 was kind of like an year that I got tired. Like I got super tired. Like I felt, okay, I was always like boosted to get on the plane and to fly to a World Cup. And then when I had the chance, I was asking to the last minute flight, like closest to the race possible. And if I could fly out on Sunday night, I would fly out on Sunday night. So I was really tired of being in that environment. And I was actually on a very good contract by the time. I was probably one of the highest paid athletes in the field. And I was still on a contract for, I think overall, with all the sponsors, I was probably the highest paid athlete in that moment. But I was so unmotivated to do anything. Or I was so tired or burnt out, or, like I didn't feel like I wanted to do things that way anymore. And then end of the year or mid-year, I actually to break my contract with Cannondale. It wasn't hard, like obviously was super hard, the negotiation, because I was a very important asset to them in terms of marketing and the story that we built together. But in the end, they released me with no. It was a friendly agreement. So I lost a lot of money, but I left happy. And I think it was also good to the team. I added a lot during the 8 years. I learned a lot during the 8 years, and we achieved a lot together. And when I got the freedom to do whatever I wanted, the news kind of like was spread as rumors initially, and then that was actually a nice moment to me, because I felt like, okay, I'm not performing, I'm done, like always these like I was always like very, very hard with myself, a lot of self-questioning, and I wasn't seeing myself as someone very important or someone very capable. I was always like having less valuable view of myself. And then I thought, okay, I mean, maybe I'm gonna have a chance with a team or here or there. And then straight away, a lot of like big brands or big teams got in touch with me, and they were like super interested in having me, and they were doing like good offers to have me on board. And then that was actually something that made me reflect, okay, maybe those guys, they see something that because I'm always trying to be better than I was, I'm not valuing, like I'm not evaluating myself in the right way. So I still, no matter what, I still have a lot to offer. And at some point I was very, very lining into signing with a big factory team that would be, like something new, something fresh, something interesting, and like financially it was good as well. So I didn't feel like, wow, that's actually nice. I'm not losing anything. And I'm getting a new chance to work with new people, like a new material, all that, it's kind of like a boost. And then I started like questioning myself quite a lot, because one of the things that I would eventually need to sacrifice was my development team. I wouldn't have, like enough support to keep this team, or enough time to find different sponsors and stuff. And I would probably need to close the team. And then this was actually like the biggest motivation for me to get out of a factory team and to join my own team, to start my own project, and to try to make a Brazilian team with Brazilian staff and Brazilian riders on a World Cup level. And I remember, I think today I can say it more freely, but when we were discussing the numbers, and where I presented that to a few options and so on, but I ended up linking with Caloi, which to me was nice, because I didn't feel like I'm not being grateful to Cannondale, and going from Cannondale to a similar brand, like a similar competition level brand, but I'm going to a brand that it's owned by the same group, so they are sister brands, and it's a brand that's focused on Brazilian market only. So it wasn't conflicting, it was actually the best that could happen to Cannondale. That was the move. If they could choose, I think they would choose that. So I felt good that way. And I felt good also that, like I would give back to the brand that gave me the chance back then in 2013. So during my whole elite career, I never moved out of, like the same environment was Caloi, Cannondale, Caloi. And we started this project, but I remember when we were discussing the numbers and trying to finalize the budget and so on, to do the whole operation with flights and stuff and athletes material-wise and so on. And then when I gave them the green light to the contract, like the number on the column of my annual salary was 13,000 reais per year, which is basically like 2,000 euros per year. That was my salary for the 2023 season when I gave the green light. Later on, I mean, I raised it for a bit more, and I got a few other sponsors into the team, and it was all right. It wasn't my ambition to, to be highly rewarded financially, but I remember that, that was the size of. I think that represents quite a lot on the size of my choice. And it was actually pretty good, and I had the chance to work in a different way, to do different stuff, to meet different people. I think that's Bjorn Wood's one of the greatest gifts that I got from this time, meeting him and working with him and getting trained by him was very nice. But he knows about that. On the backstage wasn't smooth at all. Was quite a nightmare that season. Even like when I started like going back to train, my daughter, I have a small daughter, she got sick one morning. She went to the hospital, and then she went out of the hospital, and then in the afternoon she had to get back, and then they clocked there was something wrong, and she had this bacterial infection, and in I think 3 days she stopped walking, in 4 days she stopped talking, and was a nightmare to me. That was bad. That was hard, and I was in the hospital for I think nearly 2 weeks with no training. So I left the hospital gratefully that she left with absolutely no sequels, so she was 100% healed from that. And like when I got back to training with this delay, with the mental hit, and trying to like organize the whole team, the team launch, the trips, the contracts with the sponsor, everything was on me now. And then I crashed and I hurt my ribs, and then was another bad week. And then I started building, and then little by little, with the stress of everything happening, was like moving upwards. And then I got this lung infection that was my VO2 collapsed. And after 6 years without losing a single race in Brazil, I got smashed in 3 races in a row in my hometown. So there were like 3 races, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, in my hometown. So I didn't feel like great before the first one, and then I got hammered, and then the second one again, and the third one again. So everyone was saying, "Oh, he's done. He made a bad choice with moving to this team and so on and la la la." And then was another like after that, I collapsed for 2 weeks. I was super sick, and then again was delayed. And then I had like I think a sequence of 3 weeks or so of decent training, and then again, like I start feeling okay. I'm getting there. And then we had this race that I won 9 years in a row. Where is the World Cup now, the opening World Cup now, in Arasha. And I had won that race in 9 years in a row. And then I had a clash with on the short track on the final corner, and I finished third. And then the next day they included like an extra race on Saturday, a cross country, and then I won. And then on Sunday was another cross-country horse class event. And then Martin Vidal had a young gun from Specialized. He was racing, and then we were fighting on this race, and there was a bit of clash because we had these touching balls on Friday, and then he skipped the race on Saturday to save the legs to Sunday, and I said, I'm going to smash this little fucker on Sunday. And then I was feeling like, okay, now we're going to talk, because now I'm feeling like a little bit like a real me, and I'm going to fold this young fellow. And then we were racing, and the race was good. It was a good fight. I was feeling good, and I could see that he was feeling good as well, but I felt like I had more to give. And then in one lap, I don't know exactly what happened before, if I hit a rock. I remember like passing an overlapped rider and hitting a rock kind of like sideways. But anyway, I kind of like launched this small drop, and the frame cracked and the frame broke. And I broke so many frames in my career. Actually, a lot of riders, everyone cracks the frames when training, like small cracks. But on a race that was first, and was a nightmare of an episode, because it represented so much to me and to the project, and like on that race. So I remember like crashing, and I knew there was something wrong, and I never said a word. I just put the bike on the shoulder, and I walked back a K or so, in the middle of the crowd. So many people like seeing that and taking pictures and videos, and I was just walking back, and then I got back to the hotel. I didn't say a word to anybody, you know, like I was just straight going mode. And in my head, you know, like I was exploding. People to this day, they kind of like compliment me. Oh, that's a professional behavior, you know, like it was so under control and all that. But I wasn't just like showing the emotions, but I was processing things on a very, very high speed in my head. And then when I got back to my hotel room, I was, you know, like, fuck, that was a huge mistake, you know, like, why I'm doing that and this and that. And all of a sudden, you know, like I started discussing with myself, arguing with myself. And then I told myself, okay, you stop it, because stop it saying that everything is going wrong, because it's about when it's going to get right. Remember that you are the guy that took you 10 years to step on a World Cup podium. So shut up and trust in yourself, and trust what you do, and wait while you're doing and working, because things they will happen for a reason or another. I had to experience that. And then I remember the next thing, after, you know, like having this mental clash with myself, I sent a message to the brand director that was attending the race, a guy that signed me in Caloi when I joined Caloi in 2012, mid of 2012. He joined the company like a week before, and the first thing that he did on the company was signing me. So he always said that I'm the guy that signed the Avancini. And then I sent him a message and said, "Can I? Are you in the hotel? Can I go to your room?" And I remember going to his room. He had the notebook open, and he was having a meeting with the engineers in Brazil, engineers in Asia. They were like already organizing the logistics to send it to analysis and to try to understand what happened, because in theory it wasn't like a market product, but it got tested and was super safe, you know, like we had a margin. And then he tried like to justify to me what he was doing, and said, I don't want to know about that now, and I just came here to tell you that this happens. Be chilled about that, and I'm still gonna win a World Cup or a World title on this bike. And then he was kind of like, I could see in his eye, he said, cool. I could see in his eye, this boy's a freak, you know, like he has no clue what he's saying. He's tripping or something like that. He hit the head, I don't know. But, you know, like from this moment, nothing got easier, especially because I hurt both of my knees, especially my left knee got pretty bad banged. And I couldn't train properly after that. So it was so hard. It took me so long to maybe have like a couple of decent weeks. Like, and when I say like a couple of decent weeks, it's like a few times I would leave for, I don't know, 4 hours ride on the road, and I had to call someone with 3 hours 45 because I couldn't do it anymore. And you know, because I was sitting on the side of the road and I couldn't finish, and you know, like another 5Ks, another 10Ks were too much, and I had constantly like to change the training program, you know, like and mentally that was hard, to the body was super hard, and the time was passing by. I felt more and more pressure, because now, more than having the athlete's pressure, you know, like I took the responsibility of increasing the budget for the team, and I got people to work into the team, and you know, like most of the times people that you work and you know, like closely, so you know the family, you know their kids, and you feel responsible for that. And it's different, very different. Like we own a big bike shop. It's very different, you know, like if business don't go great, if you achieve 80% of the goal, it's still kind of like okay, 80% on a race course, it's disaster. Like even 95%, it's disastrous. Mm-hmm. So, my results represented so much to the team and to those people. So I felt that I was under pressure to make that thing work, and it took quite a lot of time and treatment and patience to finally be able to race properly, or to imagine myself to race properly. But it's hard for someone. First of all, it's very hard to someone that was used to race in the front to be racing the mid pack. Like, it's not the same. Like when you race on the first wave of the race, like top guys, the crowd cheers in a way. It's one type of speed, it's one type of ethic of racing. And then when you get out of like top 15, top 20 into top 30s, it's no man's land, and especially when you kind of like are a big name, it's even better to people if they smash you. So they get like double aggressive towards you. So it was like the last pleasant season of my career, or one of the last pleasant seasons of my career. But we got to the point, I think July, that I kind of like, it was kind of like a click. My knees got not great. I was still in pain like every day, but I could pedal and I could suffer enough to through the sessions. So it was a much better situation. And then I think was about like 2 weeks that I started like hitting decent numbers. And then during this time, I relied a lot on Bjorn, but he also gave me a lot of freedom, because a lot of times that I wasn't very disciplined in terms of I was a little bit of a rebel on training, because I had to find confidence, I had to. So sometimes it was more important to me than delivering, what was asked was to test myself. Okay, I need to test myself. So I remember like few sessions, maybe, I don't know, I had to do 6 sets of 12 minutes. And then on the last set of 12 minutes, I felt like I was good. So I was trying to go for my PB 20 minutes. And it wasn't great for training. It wasn't great for training, but I needed that, and Bjorn never questioned myself about that, because I think he understood that the mental conflict was too much during the time. And then at some point I felt, okay, now I can race. Now I can imagine about like racing and delivering something. And all the struggles, they kind of like, they feed, they were feeding the feeling of looking back to my life. And every time I had barriers and barriers on my way, something big was about to happen. So every time I had to struggle against something important was about to happen. And then we were at national champs. And then I said, okay, now all the national riders, they think that they gonna smoke me, and I'm gonna win the both races with like a one less gear than I can use. So I wanted like to really boss the races, and we came into the nationals with a good load of training, and then I won both races. And before the nationals, I already like set the decision to myself. That was, okay, Worlds are coming, and I think maybe a month before the Worlds, we kind of like put the target also on the marathon course. So it wasn't something that was very planned or very well prepared. It was more like adapt because there is a good chance here. And I took the decision, okay, Worlds are coming, and if there is something big to happen this year, it's winning second world title. And then I asked myself, before sharing it with nobody, with anybody else. I asked myself, okay, what I'm gonna do if I do achieve that, if I do get the rainbow stripes. And then I reflected about that, and my decision was, okay, that's enough. What I did for the mountain bike, I proved my speech over and over in different ways, different situations. I left my message, I left my mark, I changed it, and I impacted the lives of people close to me. I represented well the sport. I impacted well the sport in my country. So I felt like I can do more, but I did enough. And it's better if someone else does different or does more in a different way. And then after winning nationals, the first first person that I shared that decision was my father. I called him in my room, and then I told him that I have this decision. So I'm finally feeling good, and I'm finally feeling that I can race as a real me, and I'm feeling that I'm gonna win a World Title in 2 weeks' time. And if I do, I want to let you know that that will be it. That's the end of my journey. And he never shared his thoughts about that with me to this day, but he totally supported me. So my father he still is a very important person on my career and life, and he supported me and said, if that's your decision, I'm with you, and that's it. And then we went to Woods, and it was such a great race. Like for 4 hours, I rode so well, so much under control, so much trusting myself, trusting the legs, reading the other guys. I mean, the only thing that I had in me is that I can bunk, like I can get low fuel during the race. So I was really spot on fueling during the race, and I knew like I had the numbers, I had the skills. It was a super cold and wet day, especially to me, and I thought I just need to deliver. I wasn't like expecting special legs or something like that. I just expected to be allowed to race the race, and I raced it with like a guy it's aiming for freedom, like I was running away from something. So that was a very, very unique race to me, because I didn't race to win. I raced it to stop racing, and if I finished like second and I would lose for half a tire, I would still be racing. That's or at least until end of 2024. There's no doubt about that. There was no like margin for that decision. Was if I win, I stop. If I don't win, I keep racing and I keep my mouth shut. And then I won, and it was like I had my staff with me. It was like a smaller crew. Was just me, one of the riders of the team, Ulan, physio, and a mechanic, and another guy that supported us in Europe during the time. And I think they were kind of like shocked, because I won a world title after so many like struggles that they saw in a good part, what I was going through. And they were shocked because I wasn't like celebrating or something like that. It was more like the feeling, and probably they got this feeling. Was more, I was probably more looking like a guy that finished a good work. Like I worked super hard, like on a construction or something, and then okay, now it's time for next one. It's someone else's turn now, and to me was yeah, I think that the biggest professional achievement, because to do that with your own team, it's people don't have no clue how hard it is. Like to do that with a Brazilian brand, like setting up a new project like that, it's huge. It's compared to like the other world title that I won or the other achievements that I did with Cannondale, the complexity of these achievements, it's a different league. And then on the human side, I was having a very, very far from ideal season to thinking about winning a world title. So on the human aspect, like to me, it's it's something that I have the bike on the wall and the shirt on the wall, and it's something that every time I pass by it, I wonder and I ask myself how.
I still remember the season was far from ideal, and we kept it secret for a very long time that we were working together. And because I was really like, oh God, it's a mess. It was really like how you described it. Like suddenly your VO2 max dramatically dropped, and it was like, oh shit, oh. And then your knee, and I was like, water was pouring out everywhere, and everything was filled, and I just tried to take the buckets, and we had so many calls. We met in Austria, had a long conversation in the camper van. It was really like a very, very frustrating time.
Yeah.
But yeah, then suddenly it just, it made click, and I like it. I like the story because we really kept it secret for a very long time, because we didn't want to put any stress upon you and also upon me. And I remember when you won, and we talked. I think it was the day after or on that day, I don't know. And then you said, okay, I stopped, and I said, I absolutely understand that it's the best time to stop cycling. Yeah. And then that's it. Yeah. But it was, I really had to invent a lot of things. First of all, to adapt to the problem, and then also adapting, as you mentioned, like, okay, Björn, I do this and that, and maybe we can smash in these intervals. And then I said, okay, then we put in the high altitude camp here, and it was like, it was a constant disaster, and somehow it was like,
Sorry, Björn.
It was managing training on a very high level. Yeah, it was. And then then we won. It was also quite nice for me, and winning that title, and 2 years before with Andy, and second the year before. It was like also a little bit proof for me that I still can do a good job with different riders.
You know a thing or two for sure. I truly believe that was challenging, because when a rider, I think especially older riders like myself, during the time you start like to trust too much in your experience. So it's hard like to change, or to be always open to new approaches. I think I always I was good with that, like on being open to new inputs and to change. Even after I was successful doing a certain way, I could still change. But I think in that case, like mentally, it was like the outside was a mess, but mentally it was even worse, because like the head starts like to explode constantly. So, and you start like showing stuff to people around you, and obviously your coach, it's one of the first ones to get the bombs. Like I'm trying, I need to solve it somehow, so help me to get help. But it was, I think, was very good like to work with you, because to me it was a massive refresh in terms of I needed someone to accept the challenge and not telling me like maybe you should do this that way, or like I didn't need the assurance of what I did in the past, or that was my situation, that was my reality. Like I was in a very bad place. Like the body was bad in so many ways. A lot of things went out of the trails, and I just needed someone that was open to deal with this mess. And I think to me the good lesson about working with you was like you have so much knowledge, and you're so good on giving the scientific background to everything you're doing, and a lot of time I was throwing that in the bin, and and it's a very, very, in a way, it's a very disrespectful way of working, because I was for sure working hard, but I was doing wrong stuff a lot of times, and I had to change a lot of times because it was a necessity of my body, or was a mental need, and I understand. I think I have a good understanding that it must be pretty hard to get along with that, like to accept and okay, I adapt. I rewrite the schedule that was perfect, the schedule that was, like I put effort and I put science into it and I put my knowledge into it, and now that you screwed everything, okay, I rewrite everything. So I appreciate that, Björn.
No, but that actually, I take a lot of things out of that. Yeah, I'm working with different athletes, not only in cycling but also in different sports. And I'm always thinking about Alan Moore, the writer, who's also doing a lot of comics like Watchmen, for example, or also The Batman, The Killing Joke. And he once said that once you're inventing something in a story that you're always using, some kind of trick in storytelling or stuff like that, and then at the second book you're writing, you doing it again, but then you realize, okay, this is what I'm always doing, and this is everything that I'm doing as a coach. I'm constantly, all the struggles you have. I'm also having all these struggles. Maybe this is why we worked so well together, all the dark places you were in, I can absolutely relate to that. And so I'm constantly questioning myself, about is that right what I'm doing? Because that worked in the past, does it really fit? And maybe I need to do something new. And I have a lot of riders who are working now with me for many, many years, and I'm constantly trying to change and to be better and to adapt to things. And always with the risk that it could be make things bad or worse or whatever. So so I'm very grateful to learn. And not only first of all on the training side, because I see, okay, Henrique has this kind of metabolic blueprint, and he did this and he get in that shape. So that's interesting for me. But especially what I learned a lot is the mental side from you, and the mental strengths, being able to pull yourself out of really, really, really shitty situations. And I like that approach, and especially when you're working with younger riders. And this is actually the lesson out of this very long podcast now. And usually you're just like, hey, Henrique, how do you overcome bad situations? And you're like, oh, I have this and that, but no, only listening to the podcast will explain that there are way more negative things, time-wise, consuming you, and only a little bit of highlights, diamonds, some here and there, but it's worth working for them, and it takes an awful long time. And you will, if you you can't be sure to be awarded, yeah. But it's worth doing the fight, yeah, because you will grow on that personally, and I like that approach because, I can relate to that, yeah, But it's amazing, yeah. Was a lot of fun working with you.
Maybe one day we need to share the whole talk from the phone call after the World Champs.
Yeah.
Maybe one day.
Yeah. Yes. We will.
We will. Yeah. At some point we will.
Nice.
Good stuff.
Niklas,
thanks,
do you have any final super question?
Nothing left. I'm stoked. That was awesome.
Yeah.
I just had a lot of fun just listening the story. Thank you.
Yeah, fun story, and I learned a lot about mountain bike history, and obviously I was also part of it, mainly as a journalist, but also as a coach. I still remember you beating Daniel Geismeier, and it's nice to hear, and also like the message sending out as I told before, getting yourself out of the shitty places, and that there are a lot of dark places and you can overcome them.
Yeah, I think that's
living proof.
When I look to my whole journey, I think the most valuable thing that I did or achieved was sharing it as much as I could, and being as human as I could. I consider myself a very, very regular guy, like a very ordinary guy. And I also understand that I achieved it, and I did very extraordinary things, and that's a message that I really like to share, because no matter if you don't see yourself as someone special, there's still a lot of special things to be lived and to be done.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you, guys.
We stay in contact, of course, as always. And have a good day.
Thanks, guys, and thank you for everyone. For everyone listening, if you made to the final of nearly 2.5 hours, congratulations! You deserve a finisher medal.
Okay.
Nice. That's a good first English podcast for us. Yes.
Yeah.
Nice. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Keep in touch. Ciao. Ciao, Bjorn.
Ciao.